Hello and welcome to a very special video with this beautiful cover from the 5th edition of Warhammer 40k's rulebooks. This is their 5th edition rulebook, if you're wondering. Came out in 2008 and it introduced a number of different things, not just the introduction of orange into most of their marketing, but the true line of sight rule came into being effectively in this, at least in terms of being codified and officially in the main rulebook. But let's talk about one little thing, and then we'll talk about this little book. So, if you're here for this, just jump forward. If you want to hear my opinion on the other thing, there's been a string of, again, channels having trouble that are Warhammer related, and with a little bit of research, I've basically come to the conclusion that one, it's really not Games Workshop in this case. It's just a happy coincidence for them. In effect, their silence really does tell you the fact that when you have a company in India that's just going around and effectively copyright claiming Warhammer-related things, and, well, Games Workshop stays silent and ignores the problem as channels are destroyed and a company runs around and just claims things willy-nilly. As you will see if you've ever made a Zelda video and had the entire thing claimed by a company in Estonia that thinks it owns the music that Nintendo does. But again, Nintendo doesn't care if you lose your channel. So you never know with YouTube, and the fact that YouTube will not actually force people to prove they own something before they copyright claim it. So just be aware of that, guys. YouTube is not anyone's friend, and they're certainly not a company that really, in a lot of ways, cares what happens, because they make more money on claimed videos than they do videos that aren't claimed. So let's get on to this book. Now let's just take a look at this. Now I want you to imagine that this might have some commentary back to a certain Black Reach. Was a very big push to get a little bit more in there. We got In the Grim Darkness of the Far Future, There Is Only War. Fantastic. And we're going to go to a couple different spots in this book, so don't worry if I don't cover everything. We got our standard building an army section, picking a battle force with some images of, at the time, our Space Marines. How charming are they? A little bit of a advertisement for codexes if you're building an army. And then we got some fighting a battle, an overview of it, and we're only going to take a few moments to look at some of the art. We're not going to go over too many of the the movement or anything like that. You get a big codification of that. We have some elements here, another art piece over here. I would like to point out that this is a book I own, and I have every right to show it if I want, but I am being respectful to the company and not. So I just wanted to put that out there in case anyone got really upset about it. There's a couple fantastic pieces in here, but we have a section with organizing a battle and setting your forces and all that. Now, the one thing you've probably noticed if you have been looking at a number of my videos and me talking about the different rule books is, for a good chunk of this, the army construction building has not really changed much. It's had tiny little tweaks, but in general, we've had a force org chart. We've had armies that are pretty consistently put together. And in general, it was very easy to understand how an army in these older editions, once you got the hang of it, were put together. Let's check out this fantastic piece of art. I'm going to try to get as much of it into frame as I can. This is just amazingly good. One of the true great artists. Games Workshop, make this entire team a model set that looks like this art. Come on, don't be cowards. we got the Eternity Gate with a bit on the Imperium of Man. Now, this does introduce a timeline of about 250 years at the time of the current timeline for Warhammer. And let's see, Worlds of the Imperium. Now, this is a bit reminiscent of something we had seen in one of the older ones, I believe the 3rd edition, where they talk about planets in a little bit more detail. They don't show as many images, they just give you descriptions. Now, this is a nice little example, kind of telling you like a military breakdown, a production, what the world is, different points on it. That's cool. But we lack the imagery difference on some of them. Then we got the Imperius Dominus, the interesting elements and sectors you've probably seen for the Imperium's Universal Empire Man. We got an Empire Under Siege section, which kind of goes into some of the things going on. And let's see. Oh, here we are. The Age of the Imperium, with a little timeline that gives you all that luscious information. Now, the book's fantastic for some of this if you want to collect it. If you're asking me, is 5th edition a edition worth playing, I'm going to defer to people who have more experience with it. 5th edition was my least played edition, next to, well, the ones after 7th, let's just put it that way. Fantastic, beautiful piece of art. Sorry about the shine on the back. I'm trying to blot that out. Then we get a section on each of the different factions. I wonder who the poster children are. It must be the humans. A little bit on each of the different chapters. We get a fun bit where we have an art from Assault on Black Reach. That's even mentioned in here. I wonder why. We got the Imperial Guard section. And it has a limited but fairly characterful number of different guard units that, if you look at the Lich's Laboratory, he has done some of these. I believe he's done the Tunnel Rats for one example, if you want to check out his channel. Fantastic channel, fantastic kit basher. Of course, we get a number of different elements. I'm going to try to speed this up. We get a Chaos Demons section, which goes into, we have an Elder section, which is not too bad. It has a fantastic art of a craft world, if we can get as much of that in there as possible. We then got this, which is, it's fun. And let's go ahead and just jump forward. We got, of course, our showing off of things, collecting, painting, and playing battles, with a big image of this going on. And then we have a number of model selections being shown off. The old man himself. For the different factions, I still will say this, even with the newer Sisters of Battle, I believe that there was a certain charm that the Sisters of Battle held, and that's one reason so many people cared about them. We got these guys, and I would still love to have these. I missed out on having the metal raptors. I still think they're fantastic. They're surprisingly large, too. Chaos Demons, the Eldar. Let's go ahead and get that. Orcs. The Tau Empire, which is an interesting one. I remember this line fairly well. I had a decent little group of fire warriors I was working on before, let's say my collection ended up on the wrong side of a falling storage bin. Moves were not always the best with the military, I'll just say that. We have our Necrons. Now, these are some of the Necrons I remember more than the old ones, which were Terminators, effectively. I'm being very general. I'm just going to say that. But Some people love them, some people hate them, but it was an interesting transition for them. We have a section on collecting an army with an example piece on there. Now, one thing I wanted to show, and I think it's worth pointing out, is that this book has a reference section. Now, I think this is the last book that had this. I'll have to check with my 6th edition, but it's either this edition or 6th. That was the last one to have the rules for most of the armies in the background. Now, this is one thing I loved about 3rd edition, is that it provided the rules and that people could, and in fact, pick up the main book and then play a game. It's not perfect. It doesn't give you the point cost for most of them, but you do get them for, let's see, we have Space Marines, Imperial Guard, Forces of the Imperium, Chaos Space Marines, Chaos Demons. I still hate the fact that they separated the Chaos Space Marines and Demons, the Tyranids, the Elder, the Dark Elder, the Orcs, the Tau Empire, and the Necrons. And, of course, we got a quick reference. So you could very quickly reference some of the rules. And our 2-hit chart, our 2-wound chart, weapon summary, and all of that fun jazz. What can I say about 5th edition? Well, I had limited experience with it in terms of play. I don't have any rose-colored glasses, and in many cases, I believe for a lot of us, this edition started a trend that would be what, in effect, took Warhammer from a lot of people in terms of their enjoyment of it. It's an edition that kept going with some of the older traditions, especially the references in the back, some of the elements of the book you'll notice from older editions, especially if you looked at any of them or, had the pleasure of playing them in their heydays. It is a very well put together book. But do I think that it holds a candle to 3rd edition? No, but let me be perfectly blunt. That has everything to do with my experience to the game, my thoughts towards it, and just affect what I myself value the most from a rule set. And honestly, that's an interesting little amount of difference. I don't think they're really that different in terms of size, but should you get it? Well, if you're looking for something that's available, it's not a bad edition. The rules are fine. It doesn't overcomplicate too much, and if you enjoy the style of game that Warhammer is, it would serve you well. 3rd edition I still like more because, in my opinion, it is much simpler, but it can still be complicated if you're new. Would I suggest these over something like 1-page rules? If you're new to wargaming and you're looking for something to bring yourself into such a hobby, no. I'd say you can get most, if not all, of the experience from this with 1-page rules. You can always tweak the rules, but most importantly, it's easy to pick up and it's easy to teach. But these still hold a certain value. They are an interesting capsule of the time. They are, well, of course, physical. That's one big one. And if you're big into 40K, they do hold a lot of information. They are a treasure trove of lore and information that you could use even if you're not playing these. And, of course, there's always the historical element. If you enjoy having something to be able to peruse through it and go, wow, what an interesting, and here's the world I was complaining about. What an interesting and wonderful thing to look at. Overall, It's about playing the things and involving yourself in the things that you get personal enjoyment from. So I would say this: no matter what edition you're playing, if it's an older edition, I'm going to give you a big thumbs up. I'm going to suggest that you play it, that you advocate for it, and you, of course, keep it alive. Let us know why you love it. What is your favorite edition? And of course, if you don't like any of them, there's always One Page Rules, Zero Genesis, and some other games out there that you could try out. And I'll talk to you if you want to in the comments. But most importantly, guys, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're having a fantastic day and you're going to have a great weekend. I'm going to pick up my new glasses today. And, well, quite honestly, don't give GW your money. And cancel, Netflix, because why not? Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye-bye.